Call this July 23rd, Brown County Commission meeting to order. Commissioner Weiss, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning.
Morning.
First item on the agenda, we have the second reading and possible adoption of Ordinance 138, the patent rezone.
Ordinance 138, an ordinance amending Title 4, second revision, Brown County ordinances as amended to rezone certain described properties.
Move it. Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Weiss, to approve the second reading and adopt Ordinance 138, patent rezone. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
This will be recorded as a roll call in a minute.
Sounds like a plan. Abby, you want to do some things so we get ready to...
Yeah.
do the next thing?
We have minutes from June 16th.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Weiss, or moved by Pfeiffer, second by Weiss to approve the general meeting minutes for July 16th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Claims and payroll.
Second.
Moved by Kipley, second by Sutton to approve claims and payroll. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
HR report.
Move.
Second. Moved by Sutton, second by Pfeiffer to approve the HR report. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Fair contract.
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Pfeiffer, second by Sutton to approve the fair contracts. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Petty cash. This is for planning and zoning to have a change to.
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Pfeiffer, second by Sutton to authorize petty cash for planning and zoning, which we were just talking $100 is all it was, right?
Yeah,
Just for
yeah.
something that they can take care of things without chasing back and forth the treasurer.
Yeah, especially when he goes downstairs.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Legal assignment.
Moved.
Okay.
Moved by Weiss, second by Kipley to approve the legal assignments. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The Hayland lease at the fairground.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Pfeiffer, second by Sutton to approve the hayground lease for Brown County Fairgrounds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Brown County Citizen Corps Council member appointments.
Move.
Second. Moved by Sutton, second by Weiss to approve the Brown County Citizen Corps Council member appointments. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
JDI grant award.
Second.
Moved by Kipley, second by Pfeiffer to approve the JDI grant awards contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The plat.
Move.
Second. Moved by Sutton, second by Weiss to approve the plats. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Set hearing date for ordinance 140 to be August 13th at 8:45.
Are those all going to be the same date?
Yeah, and I just did them in 1 minute intervals.
Can we do them all together, or no?
I guess if you want to. We can't approve the ordinances all together, but I think for this we probably could.
Set the hearing date, yeah. I'll move, set the hearing date.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Kipley to set the hearing date for ordinance 140, 141, 142, 143, and 144. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution for road name change. Is that one up at Elm Lane?
Move.
Second.
I just saw that on Saturday, and it's like, what the heck?
Moved by Sutton, second by Pfeiffer to authorize a resolution for road name change at Elm Lake. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Apparently it
sounds like a good idea at the time.
Yeah. So they don't
Seems
like
like
to resort till 2 in the
two
morning.
initials of three family names or
Okay.
something that live down there.
Crazy.
The last item I've got is, Judy Bright in a contract for Huff Construction. Kids want to authorize chair to sign that.
I'll move it.
Second. Moved by Sutton, second by Weiss to authorize chair to sign a contract for
Huff
construction.
Construction at the Blue Building.
Building,
We
right.
did it last time, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. You change your mind yet?
No, I'm changing.
Almost got you there then.
Next item on the agenda, we have Scott Bader, Planning and Zoning Director. We're fee schedule. Morning.
Morning. The packet that I left for everyone, the main two items is just fee schedule and the application schedule. And then there's comparisons in there with the existing ones, if anyone has any questions.
And then this will be, immediately, and then right away? And when
Yeah.
it's taken back to them?
My plan was that we would just kind of pre-approve this, and then Kathy can run a resolution through next week.
Prove it, get it published.
This application fee schedule, the state doesn't recognize special exceptions anymore. They're called conditional uses, and that's why I have them two, that $200 are the same thing, just different wording, and we have some that are, in our ordinance currently, it's called special exception, and the definition has been changed to special exception conditional use. They were always $100, and with the certified mail fees at about $7 a letter, it just wasn't enough to even cover what was there. Same way with variances. And then the CAFO is, that went from 200 to 300. And these were all mainly because of the cost of the certified mail and the work that's going into them items.
So
How do
any-
these,
Go ahead.
how do these fees compare statewide with other counties? Do we do any checking with that, or do we?
Yeah, several of them have, like, say like for variance, they might have $75 plus the cost of certified mail. So then you have to figure out how many letters are gonna be sent out to the neighboring property owners. You know, to get that fee paid, do you do that towards the end, or you do that, you know, while they're putting in an application? And some of them that I talked with, they just felt it was easier to just have a fee, you know, with the average number that's sent out. And that's what I did.
Less accounting, less complicated.
You know, you just have an application fee and you're just done with it.
How does state statute word it as far as if you wanted a setback for a building? Do you only have to send the certified letter to the person who is the neighbor on that side, or do you have to send it to everybody around the parcel?
Well, neighboring properties, like on a rezone, being that's an ordinance change, we've kind of, I guess, consistently done about a half-mile radius.
Everybody who's in a half mile.
Yep. Notifying people on that. Now, I do the same thing like on a CAFO. On variances, that's real tight, neighboring properties, maybe half a dozen, depends on the populated area. If it's just kind of out in the country versus, you know, like Richmond Lake, where you might have a dozen just right in a tight circle, so.
So it's not dictated specifically by state law that we send them to who in particular, we kinda at our discretion.
Yep. Yep, on CAFOs, it, with, the setback requirements for like churches, businesses, and residents and stuff, being a minimum of half mile, that's where the half mile kinda came in for neighboring properties, like on rezone.
I think this is needed.
Yeah, this was definitely, needed for a change. And then the permit fee schedule, a lot of times as I had said before, like moving and demolition permits, writing them up in floodplain permits and things like that, and there was no charge to them, but there's certainly time invested in that too. But on the permit fee schedule, the major change is gonna be that $25 up to the first $83.50. Because we had permits for $6, $8, $11. We'll just have a flat fee for all that. And that's probably, I think it's about 50% of our permits are probably less than 10,000.
Lots of remodeling and small projects.
Yep.
Can you make sure this gets in before Commissioner Biker gets his building permit?
Better come and inspect it. Make sure it's there.
Yep. And then I just included some samples of resolutions for Kathy. And then the one page that says ordinance changes, these are changes that I'm working on doing here. And then I'm gonna go over some of that with Eric Singer from ECOG. And then I'll present that to the board here later. The blue is proposed changes, obviously the cross-outs in red are cancellations. And then depending on how you guys end up doing with approach permits, whether they stay in this department or go to the highway department, I have this chapter here, or paragraph I mean. That'd be it for me.
All right. Is this in a form you want a motion today, or do you have to type it up differently or anything, or?
Yeah, this is the first I've seen the resolution, but if you want a motion to approve the fees for this week, that's kind of what he had recommended.
Right.
These two tables.
I'll move the fee schedules.
Second. Moved by Sutton, second by Reeves, to approve the fee schedules on the zoning and permitting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank
Thanks, Scott.
you.
We appreciate it. I'll be over to see you sometime today. Next on the agenda, we have Judy Dodge, Building Superintendent. Discuss surplus. What do we have too much of?
Money? Not money.
Not money, no. Nope, I just wanted to know when we're moving everybody around, and I'm just kind of setting everything back into the Millen building, and I wanted to know what you want me to do with this surplus, like at the desk, let's say chairs, and I don't know what all we're gonna end up with. Do we do Habitat for Humanity, or do you want me to have like a little rummage sale in the fall here to get rid of some of this stuff, or what do you guys want me to do? Because I'm not gonna have that big of an area to keep a lot of the stuff. So, it's gonna be, you know, I could have some metal desk and stuff, and there could be some filing cabinets, good filing cabinets I'm gonna work in and try to keep. You might not be able to get into the building where I'm gonna keep it all, but we'll meet you at the door, but, I just need to know.
So if you had a rummage sale, would this mean we'd have to drag this stuff somewhere else, or could it
No,
be
I would
done
just do it right
outside?
at the Miller Building. That's what I
Okay.
did one other year. I had a rummage sale, and I had all the stuff there, and I just had the sale right there. So, just haul it out of the building and put some in the weed and out in the, so.
Was that successful?
I mean,
Last
for the
one?
little stuff, yeah, for my little stuff, and that's when I had a bunch of house things that, you know, from one of those homes and all that kind of stuff, so. I just wanna know what you guys want me to do.
So if we do that, do we have to declare it as surplus?
Yeah,
Well,
I would have to
she'll give us
use
a
it.
list,
Yeah, I would have to do that.
It has enough value versus just hauling it out to the landfill.
Yes, if it's broke or whatever, no, we would either take it to Martin's or whatever it is and throw it away. But if it's, you know, good usable stuff, I wanna,
So you do like an auction, or you just put a number on it, a value, and first come, first serve, or?
I mean, 'cause by the time we do the bidding to get the auctioneers, and then you pay them the percentage, and we're not gonna have that much stuff.
Right.
I mean, it's gonna be like a little rummage sale, because, you know,
Put a reasonable number on it, and here's when it's available, and first come, first serve, and
yeah.
Desks, filing cabinets, what else is over there?
Well, there's some tables, but I'm pretty sure people are gonna want some tables, and, there's some of those old wooden computer tables, you know, and just, I mean, I've gotten rid of, all the way, I sold as much as I could on a surplus sale.
Sure.
So I'm not gonna have that much, but, you know, there's gonna be some little things that we'll end up having, and
So do we need a motion for that?
We'll wait till we have a list of stuff and do it.
okay.
Yeah.
I think
Cause see,
that's
like,
fine.
right now, it's like, you know, depending on what we're doing, if I got a desk downstairs, depending on what you guys are doing with the other rooms. Okay, this is a big, huge desk. I need to get it out, I guess I'll just carry it out and put it in storage if it's not, nobody's gonna try to use it down there. And I'll just, like I said, I was just gonna stockpile stuff in the,
Is there stuff at the blue building that would probably go on this rummage sale also?
yes.
There's a bunch of those little tiny chairs over there, small chairs with, what's
I'm
everyone gonna
gonna-
have with them?
I'm gonna say most of that stuff in that office, you know, like the old wooden, or the old metal desk, and there's some bookshelves, that stuff's probably gonna be on there. So,
And we do have enough of the stuff that's just being moved from there to Blue Building. We don't need to buy all new furnishings. It's just stuff we don't need anywhere else.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm just gonna gather everything that people aren't gonna use and put it in the Millen building. And if other department wants it, they can come and take it, but what's left, I wanna know how you want it handled. If I could have a rummage sale, I didn't even know if we could have it, you know.
That rummage sale sounds like a good idea.
Yep.
put a reasonable value on it, you've done it before.
So,
We'll let you round that up and...
and then I have one other thing that I was just gonna touch base with you guys. I got to pay the interest for the 124 building in August here. I need to have a payment, and that would be the interest payment. So, do I just voucher it to you guys, like, and have you, because I gotta come up with the interest of how many days the interest is going to be. So like if I voucher you, and then on not next Tuesday, but the first Tuesday in August, you guys would sign it, and then can they cut a check right away to take it to the bank? Because, you know, we go on, I gotta have a cutoff date.
Yeah,
Can they write a check that day and we can get it to the bank then?
yeah.
Okay. Do you guys have to make a motion saying that I can do this? Or do I just go ahead and get you guys a voucher and you handle it as a voucher?
Well, it's on a contract.
Yeah, it's budgeted for.
Yeah, it's not a contract that we've already approved, so I don't see any reason why.
Right, but it's already budgeted for, it's a contract that
Yep.
we're obligated to pay, so
Okay,
I'd say just voucher it.
okay. Then I'll do that then.
Just put it in with regular bills.
Okay. Will do. That's all I have. Unless you guys have something. Got quite a few calls that they don't want the trees down.
We've had some too.
Quite a few calls of people that don't want those trees down.
Oh,
Are
in
you-
the front here?
Are you gonna plant new trees?
Yeah, what I wanna do is I'm
Oh,
gonna
okay.
get a couple quotes of the guys this fall I'm gonna have it before this fall, but to take them down probably in the fall. I want the soil prepared and all that kind of stuff, and then I'm going to talk with
Has anybody looked at the tree? Is there any saving it, or is it...
you know, I had the city look at it, and he had it's dying, I mean, it's losing all its needles from the ends to go out and look. and the other one's just too big. I guess the state was wondering about a tree for the Capitol. It's way too big, too heavy, too, even to take a portion of it. So if you go out there and look, it's actually got the two heads going up, and it's such a wide tree that it wouldn't even make any doors. So.
All right.
So then, from the two lawn people, I'll get ideas of what they think they would plant. The city forester sent me a list of trees.
Probably not green ash, huh?
Very good.
All
Good.
right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Judy.
Uh-huh.
Next item, we have Erica Coughlin, HR Director, 2020 budget.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, how are you guys?
Work your magic, Doug. Let's see ya.
Oh, here we go. This would be interesting.
I don't have printouts for you guys this morning, I have a PowerPoint for you.
To save paper.
Here, save paper, we got
Read that out. Way down the bottom there. Is there a little ding when I'm supposed to hit this, or is there a little
I can tell
bell?
you next page. Okay, so I'm just going to explain to you guys why my budget was larger this year than it has been in the past. The next arrow. Yep, go ahead and click to the next page if you want to. In code, currently we're on in code 9. In code 10, we have looked at, and that is in my budget, we're splitting that one between 3 departments. Because I'm not the only one who uses it in human resources, it's also the auditor's office and the treasurer's office who uses in code. So this one, we would just get 2 additional features with upgrading to in code 10. We would get the employee self-service, which would allow the employees to update their personal information, which would be like if they have an address change, phone number, emergency contact, they could go ahead and the employee could update that information in the computer system, and then I would be able to go in and approve, and then it would automatically update within the in-code 10 or within the in-code system. So this would allow the paper usage to cut in half. The employees wouldn't have to really contact me to say, I need this form to change my address. I would have a training session to show them, okay, this is how you would go in and you would update your address or your phone number or whatever it may be, your emergency contact. Another thing, and if you want to hit the next page slide, Doug. Another thing that we could do would be the employees would be able to view or print their pay history, so past paychecks. They would be able to view their leave history, and then they would also be able to print past W-2s. So if an employee loses their W-2s or needs past pay stubs for mortgages or whatever it may be, they could go in and they could print this information. They wouldn't have to contact me and say, I need this information, can you please get it to me? They would be able to go in and print this information. Another thing that employee self-service would be able to do is I would be able to go on there and I would be able to post announcements. So it would pop up when the employee were to log in, or if there's an announcement I need to send out, I could send it out across the dashboard and say, hey, it's an annual enrollment time, everybody would be able to see it on this employee self-service of the employee dashboard. Or if whatever else could come out of the HR office. I'm sure we could use it as like an announcement system too for other departments. If another department wanted to post something countywide, we could put it on this dashboard and get it announced across everybody.
Right now to do that, it's just a system-wide email.
Correct, correct. Okay, the next page, this is just an example of what the employees would see. If they were to pull up their past pay history, it shows like their hourly, their overtime, if they've used any sick or vacation. And then off to the lower, on this screen, it's the lower right-hand side there, it says their filing status and how many allowances they have. So some employees like to change their allowances up for tax purposes. So they want to know what they currently have. So this is another way that they'd be able to go in and say, oh, this is what I have for allowances, and then they'd be able to go change that allowance option, and then it would just come to me and I could approve that allowance option. Next page. Another thing that we would get with the upgrade to Encode 10 would be the position budgeting. This would allow the department to have access to live budgeting. So instead of Kathy printing off the pages and passing them out monthly to each department, this would allow the department to go in anytime they wanted to, click on the refresh button, and it would refresh and show their current budgets that they have access to. It also allows them to go in and plug in numbers where they can look at future budgets. So say they want to look at another employee. They can plug in $35,000 for this another employee for the next budget, and it's going to calculate what it's going to do to their budget for that next year.
So you can run scenarios, or if you've got things that you've approved but they haven't been invoiced yet, you can also see what impact that's going to have on the budget and do that.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
And you would also be able to go in and see like what your vendor fees have been in the past for certain items, and then you can calculate that in for a budget also. So you could do kind of a trial to see what my budget's going to look like for the next year, for the future. Yeah, reduced paper. Kathy, did you have any additional on that position budgeting?
You pretty much summed it up,
Okay.
yeah.
This will affect Kathy more than it would myself.
That real-time budgeting aspect of it, is that something, because I know FAIR had complained about that in the past, the printouts.
Yeah, this would help.
Have they already went forward with something separate?
We're doing weekly printouts now with the fair, getting them more information. But yeah, this would allow like the fair, the highway shop to log in real time and see right where their budget's at. They get onto like a website and it has just the departments and information that they have permission for, and it's view only. But they can go in there and look at whatever they want. If you guys wanted to know how much we spent on this particular vendor, you could just go in and there's a search bar and type in that vendor, and it will just pull up everything associated with it. Countywide, or you could do it at department level, however you wanted to look at it. So there's just a lot of search capabilities we currently don't have. We currently don't have position budgeting. These budget books, you can tell that's like a 100-page binder. There's a lot of manual preparation work into those. And then once you guys are done, we re-type everything into the computer system from those books. And part of position budgeting is we can do the budget right in the accounting system, make changes, do preliminary budget, finalize the budget, and then you guys would all have access on your surfaces to go in there and look at each budget and improve it from there.
Good.
Long-term department heads can actually submit expenses straight into Encode to avoid any sort of third-party intervention, but that's not what we're approving here today. That's just long-term.
Okay, so that's kind of the upgrades, or if we upgraded to Encode 10, that was what the additional features that we would get that would benefit not just HR, but the auditor's office and the treasurer's office also.
And for the treasurer's office, it actually has electronic bank reconciliation. That's, down the road, something they can explore as well if they choose to.
Okay, my next item that I have added to my budget would be ExecuTime. Currently we're using Sundial for our timekeeping system. ExecuTime, I went in and done quite a bit of research on this. I've done a couple demos with them. I did just a demo that they do for everybody, but then they also set up a personalized demo for the county. What it does is there's a time attendance piece in the middle, and everything links with Encode. So whatever is put into time attendance can be sent over to Encode, and vice versa. Whatever is in Encode's payroll, human resources can be sent back into time and attendance. So they work together. It shows you the browsers, your computers, your smartphones. There's time clocks out there that can be used for the time and attendance. So those are just extra features that can be used for time and attendance. But my thought is just sticking with the browsers, and then smartphones if somebody has a smartphone and would like to use that. And I'll explain that further as I go through the presentation here. So the items, go ahead, Doug. So the items that we'll look at will be the employee's role, a supervisor's role, and then the payroll position. Go ahead, Doug. This one is just an example of what the employees would see when they go to clock in and clock out. The little red box there, it says their current status is clocked out, so the employee has clocked out. You can also see that right below that it says today's messages. It will also pop up messages for the employee. So like we could do with employee self-service, the messages can also show on their time clock here. And then it also shows their current payroll and then their past payroll. So it shows that the current payroll, those two little green check marks, show that it was approved by the employee and by the supervisor. The next payroll below that would be the current payroll that they're in. So it has the little exclamation points in the red circles there. Those haven't been approved by the employee or the supervisor. So this is kind of putting that onus back on the employee to go ahead and approve their time cards again. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Doug. Another thing ExecuTime does is during the election periods, Kathy has to break out where her time goes to or where her funds go to. So she has her election workers in there. She can go in and separate that time out for her election workers and her employees versus having to go in and manually adjust that. She can go into this and there would be a drop-down box. This would be a programming thing that they would do. There would be a drop-down box. Her employees could click on elections and it's automatically going to take it from the election budget versus her auditor's budget.
We've got about 5 or 6 departments that would utilize that feature.
Yep, and then another one would be grants, like the state's attorney's office has their grants that they use. So that could be another area that we could put that specific time into. Go ahead and go to the next one. The next one, this is just an example of what the employee would see for a time card. It shows on there the date, the time, the clocked in, clocked out, the type of hours they worked, and here it shows regular hours, but on another screen I'm going to show you a breakdown of different areas. And then it shows like your job project that you worked in, and then that would be like for our grants or for our elections, and then what position you're in. Go ahead and go to the next screen. This is where it shows you your breakout of hours. So this person had 14.25 hours. They did 2.75 hours of regular time. I can't put that. 8.25 hours of overtime, and then 3.25 hours of differential. So the employee can see exactly what they're getting paid for in which area. So that's just ExecuTime programming so that employee can see, okay, here's my breakout for regular, overtime, and differential.
Are these a package deal or two separate companies?
This ExecuTime is part of Encode.
So you can't have ExecuTime unless you upgrade Encode?
No, you can do it on Encode 9. It's just they would have to tweak their system a little bit. Yeah. Okay, go ahead and go to the next one, Doug. So on this one here, it just shows that the employee had a transaction that was incomplete. What they did is they didn't clock out on Tuesday. So that's just flagging the employee with that red circle there that the employee didn't clock out that day. So the employee would notify the supervisor, and then the supervisor would go in and adjust that time. Or the employee we could set it to where the employee could put that in, and then when the supervisor would get notification that the employee adjusted their time or put in that clock out time, and then the supervisor could approve that. Go ahead and go into the next one. This is the supervisor's actions. This one also gives you today's messages, but it also gives the supervisor notice that there's 2 time cards out there that the supervisor needs to approve. So once an employee has approved their time card, the supervisor gets notice on the screen here that an employee has approved their time card. It allows the supervisor to go in and approve that time card too. So the supervisor can do it 2 different ways. They can approve it individually as the employee has approved it, or they can do it as a group. Okay, go ahead. This one just shows kind of where the approval for time off would be. So this would show an employee has submitted a request, and the requests are pending in here until the supervisor approves. So if someone had a negative balance, the employee's leave request could sit out here until that employee has enough time in their bank for the supervisor to approve. So if the employee has a negative In a couple pay periods, they'll be back to a positive, and then at that time, the supervisor will be able to approve the leave off. Okay, go ahead to the next one. And this one is just approving the time cards. This is just what the screen would look like if the employee or the supervisor approves the time cards. It's not a just quick approval. They have to put their initials in there and then click on the approve selected for the time cards. They can't just click yes or no. It's just an initial. So it's not going to stick for every payroll. It would have to be an initial going forward. Go ahead, next one. This is what the supervisors would see. So this first row is let's see here, violations. So most of them are check mark green. There's only one person who had a violation. So that person may be a clocking in, clocking out violation. They worked too many hours. That gives you a warning, just saying this person has worked too many hours. Also, it gives you the employee's role and the supervisor's role. So the employee would look at this screen. They would see just like that. They would see just the employee section. They wouldn't see the supervisor section. So these employees would know that there's either a warning there, which is the yellow triangle, or there's a violation there, which is the red circle. And so the employees would need to go in and correct that before they could approve it and forward it on to their supervisor for approval. So like I said, it's putting the onus back on the employees to make sure their pay stubs or their time cards are correct before it goes to the supervisor.
So what parameters are set up to give you those alerts?
That would be whatever we want them to set up. So if we choose to have, say if they work over a 10-hour shift in a day, say they end up working 12 hours, it's going to pop up like a warning message if we set up that parameter. It would pop up a warning message saying, you have worked too many hours in this, or you've worked too many, what's the wording that I'm looking for? Just too many hours required. So it just gives them a warning. It'll allow them to approve that warning, but then the supervisor will also get that warning showing that this employee worked 12 hours instead of 10 hours, just so the supervisor has an idea of what that employee is doing.
So basically it gives them an alert or a heads up, but it's still something, if it's appropriate, that it can be approved.
Correct.
Knowing that.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And right now, I think, I don't know. I don't know if all the supervisors look at how many hours everyone puts in a specific day. I think they just look to see if their 80 hours are put in for their for their payroll. And so I don't know if each supervisor catches to see how many hours their employees are working. So I think that would help in some departments, so they know this is how many hours are being put in for this specific individual.
To better manage the...
Correct. Correct. Yes.
So when do these, the employee puts in 11 and a half hours on what's set up with parameters of 8 or 10?
Correct.
Does the supervisor get an immediate alert, or is it something that's put in queue, and when they go in to verify that it's preset time, or what are the notification parameters? Are those adjustable, or?
I'm sure it would be however we wanted to set those up. Everything is however we want the program set up. They would just come to us and they would program it the way we want it done. So if we want the parameters set up that we want the supervisors to receive an email on that day or a notification on that day that this person had too many hours, we could do that. Or it could be a week, that would be a time card thing. They would, when they go in, the supervisor goes in to look at the time cards, they can click on that employee button, and it's going to move all of the red circles together, all the yellow triangles together, and then all the green circles together. So they can go in and see which employees all have warnings, which ones have violations.
You can sort it based on that.
Correct, correct. And then under the all, I don't know if you can see all those little check marks there, but this is where I was talking about the supervisor approving all the time cards or approving one at a time. So if there's one time card that the supervisor didn't want to approve, like say where that red exclamation point is there in violations, he could uncheck that. Everybody else would be approved except for that one with a violation. And then the supervisor could go in and expand on that one and see why that person had a violation. But the rest of them would roll over and be approved by the supervisor. Okay, go on to the next one. This is a screen that shows the vacation and sick leave that the supervisors could see. The reason I put this on here is because some employees may have a trend, and like on this specific one, on the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd, there's 3 gray boxes. That person had requested sick leave every Monday, those 3 days. So the employees would, or the supervisor would be able to see if there's a pattern with a specific employee requesting days off, whether it be requesting Mondays off or requesting Fridays off. So they could look at this calendar and say, oh, this person took vacation on this day and this person took vacation on this day. So they could look at this calendar to see when their employees have vacation or have sick leave.
So the different colors denote what? Yellow, green?
The different colors, so the green would be approved. The yellow, I believe, would be pending. We could, and I'm not sure what the gray ones are, we can put those in any colors we'd want to. And so say if we wanted to do yellow as, our green is our approved and then red is the pending, we could do that.
So it would give you, for instance, a quick reference to say, okay, I've got 4 requests, but I can only approve 2.
Correct, yes.
And you're gonna have to go back to policy or whatever it is to decide, say I have more requests and I have staffing requirements,
Yep.
say I can't approve all of them.
And see, we can give the employees access to this for the department also. So if an employee wants to request time off, they can go in here and say, oh, Joe, Sarah, and Tom also have the day off. I'm not going to put my request in for that day. I'm going to move it to another day. So they're able to see who else also has vacation requests out there or sick requests out there. Okay, go ahead on to the next one. One more option with ExecuTime is just the mobile option. I know we do have some field staff out there, and I know we don't want to give everybody access to the mobile option, and this is something we can turn on for 1 individual, 5 individuals, and leave it at that, or shut off and turn on as we go along. This just allows, and specific area I was thinking of is maybe weed and pest. They're out in the field quite a bit. We can give them a parameter to where they can clock in and clock out at. They go into that specific parameter, they click the clock in, they're clocked in for the day. Or equalization. If they're going to be out on the road for that day doing whatever equalization does, this would give them the option to clock out when they get in or clock in, when they get in the car, go do what they need to do, and then that way they're clocked in for the day. Or also the sheriff's department. They start their mornings right away in their car. They can clock in. They don't have to worry about coming into the office, remembering to put in like their time or their normal time or whatever it may be. And then it also gives us the option to edit which area they're working in. So sheriff's department, for example, if they want to switch over from regular payroll over to being on a grant for highway. So if they're out patrolling the highway, this would give them access to change from regular payroll over to that grant that they have, or that federal funding that they have. Go on to the next one.
So the employee's going to have some responsibility, or can or could?
They could, yes. And that would be completely up to, I mean, if we went back a couple screens, there were some little, like, signs that you have for location signs. If there's a cross through that, or an X through that, it just means that that person does not have access to mobile access. So we can turn that off and on our side if we wanted to give somebody access for just the day to clock in and clock out. Or if somebody's, we know that they're out of town, say in Pier doing a training, we would give them access to clock in and clock out while they're at that training. This next one is just what the employees could see. So right now the employees don't approve their time cards. This would allow the employees, say if they're off on a Sunday, they aren't going to be in till next Wednesday. This would allow them to go in and approve their time card. So they're not working, they're just going in and approving their time card. That's all they're doing. And it allows the supervisor to go in and approve time card also. And the request off would be, and I'm going to use myself as an example on this one. I make a doctor's appointment for my kids. I want to put in my request off right away so I don't forget about it. So it allows me to go in and put my request off in. And then that way I can save it. My supervisor can see it down the road, see it's a pending. So just a little more, a few more options out there for the employee to approve time card or to put in a request for time off. And the next one, supervisor timesheet approval. This would just be a supervisor, say it is in peer for a meeting. This would allow the supervisor to log in, approve payroll, or excuse me, approve time cards if they had to for a specific person because there was nobody else to approve that time card of that payroll. And then it just, another, the other side is just the pending, who's been approved, who the employee is still pending out there that needs to approve their time card yet. So just a lot of features that we have online or on our computers, but we also have this mobile access out there also if we need to use it. Next screen. And this is just kind of an example of the global sensing or the geolocation, where, example, Weed and Pest, they have their main building that they go to. We can put a circle around that main building, and as long as they're within so many feet of that main building, they can clock in or clock out on their smartphone. And next one.
So you can't clock in from a casket?
You can't. You've got to be this close to the building. This one is just the payroll piece of it. Right now, Kathy's office handles all the payroll. They spend about 2.5 days roughly going through all the time cards manually and putting the time cards into the payroll system. This would allow me to go through, make sure everybody's looked at their time cards, the employees approved their time cards, the supervisors approved their time cards. Then what I would do is I could go in and I could preview the export, verifying all that information. Employee, supervisor, then I can go to move to payroll system. That one click of the button rolls ExecuTime or payroll into Encode. Then all Kathy's office has to do is go in and send the funds and send the pay stubs. So it's going from a 2.5 day process to maybe a one day process for sure, from going from my office over to Kathy's office once everything has been approved. And that's where the organizing of the circles comes into play again, is making sure the warning and violations have been taken care of and the employee and the supervisor have approved the payroll.
So what is, I see the budget increase on here, but what's the cost of the standalone ExecuTime?
Okay, ExecuTime alone is $45,000.
And is that a one-time with how much per year to re-up?
It's about $5,000 a year. It's less than that, but I'm just going to give you the $5,000 a year for annual administrative fees. Correct.
$45,000 one time and then $5,000 after that, and does that include some, so instead of bugging our IT on any of this, we're eliminating that component as well?
Correct.
They will do the maintenance or any?
Correct. Correct. Yes. So if there's an issue, it would just be calling Encode. And with Encode being so large, we're not going to be the first ones to find the issue. More than likely, there's someone else out there who is using Encode or ExecuTime that will find that issue. There's also live videos recorded videos that you can watch at any time out there for training purposes. So if somebody new were to come in, they want to understand how this works, we can run them through one of these videos and they will know how ExecuTime works or Encode works.
Well, I know we've had a ton of issues with Sundial, just being a new product and trying to keep it updated. Is this something that we'd have to set aside? Like you had mentioned, the videos are available. Is it self-learning? Can we just give a link to all the employees and it's easy enough, or do we need to do training for that too?
To me, I would prefer to do a face-to-face that initial time, and then if somebody wants to be refreshed on it, they go back to those videos. I would like to sit down and explain this to the employees, but
like an hour?
Yeah. Yeah, it would be a half-a-day training. This would be just, this is what you need to know, this is how it works, and it could be two separate groups. It could be the basic users, and then it could be the employees, and then it could be your supervisors.
And then how much of the professional fees increase is the Encode update? What is that?
It's
chunk?
$30,000, but it's $10,000 for the 3 departments.
Okay, so 30 total.
Correct.
10 on your budget request.
10 on my budget request. And if you just want to hit the next slide, this one just shows how it goes, how they average a 6 to 9 months to go through the scope of work, implementation project, and the comprehensive training.
And with approvals, it's going to be your responsibility to make sure compensation, differentials, and all of those kinds of things are correct for each individual situation.
And I would work with each department. I want to be able to go to each department and say, okay, what else in your department runs differently, and how would you like that to run? I want input from each department. I just don't want to say, okay, here it is. This is the way we're going to do it. Go from there with it. I want them to say, okay, this is what we need help with in our department, and this is how we would like to transition into this. I don't want it to all be my choice. I want their input also.
So the testimonial, who uses this around here?
The ExecuTime, the city is just moving into it right now. They're in the end part, probably the deploying stage right now. And I don't know.
About half the counties are on Encode, and it's usually the larger counties that are on Encode. A handful are already on 10, and a bunch are waiting because they also have Encode property tax assessment, and Encode 10 isn't ready for that yet, so that's why they're waiting. Yeah, Encode 10, it's great. It would reduce a lot of our need for auditor's office requests for budgets, auditor's office requests for information. I think it's great that the department heads can log into a customized window and see exactly what they want to see. You can set a home screen, so if your highway shop is concerned about road oil, just that particular line item, he can log in the morning on his phone and just see a graph. Where am I at for road oil? Can I buy more? Can't I buy more? What have I got today? And really just customize it for what they want, as much or as little information as they need. That's what's huge. What's also huge is getting rid of the payroll data entry. I budgeted more in overtime next year than that $5,000 would cost for payroll, just because it's important to have somebody 100% focused to make sure the data entry is right and the time cards are correct, without the distraction of a line of voters at the window or the couple hundred calls we'll take a day during election season. So I really want to make sure that they can be dedicated for that, which we'll push into overtime. When we did do payroll in the auditor's office a few years ago, there was 5 staff. And so we're doing the work of 4.5 with about 4. So we manage. It's just going to be very tight when we're busy. So I think the $5,000 annually is definitely worth it for the ExecuTime. Because right now our process is, we go in and print all the time cards and do all the data entry. So it's on the auditor's office to identify an error and notify human resource to look into the error, which really isn't the process we had all kind of agreed upon for the payroll, but it's the only process we have right now that works for us to get the data entry in on time so we can get it to the bank on time. So that's, I would like to move away from that, where human resources can review all the time cards first and then correct them if needed, and then notify us it's ready to be processed. But we just need that 2.5 days to do the data entry, so that's not an option right now.
Regardless of how efficient or conscientious you are, every time you have to manually input data.
That's just it. You know, you got to be so attentive to those details, and they want to make sure that they're doing their detail correctly and that the information they're given is also correct.
You said some counties were waiting for the assessment piece to come
To upgrade
in,
to 10.
right?
Yeah, that's not
Would there
quite-
be any advantage to considering doing that? Would there be any advantage to the Director of Equalization's office?
Yes, I would
to
love
wait?
for us to be on Encode for taxation. That's just a very large process to transition to, moving all them parcels over. But yeah, right now, maybe this is a discussion for another time, but our taxation software doesn't have the same reporting capabilities, and we have a lot of reports that are being manually created or created in Excel, and to me, that's pretty scary. I mean, you're a decimal point or a clerical error away from millions of dollars in taxation errors. So we do a great job with it, but it is very time consuming. And the reports, like for example, we may give a report for someone to audit or look at, and it's not in an Excel, so it's time consuming to review your information too. Whereas Encode is designed to meet with our reporting requirements in South Dakota. But yeah, I think down the road that would be definitely something we could explore. It would be a major change for the assessor's office in their softwares, and I know they're really happy with the softwares they have, so that's consideration.
Plus, I think we paid a couple $100,000 for the license on that BC Connect not too many years ago, so you hate to just scrap it when you
Yeah.
invested that. It was supposed to be like the do-all, end-all of all programs for the property tax side, so to hear that it's not the best is kind of disappointing.
Well, it meets our needs and it calculates accurately. It's just, we'd like some additional improvements.
Was it there before? That would be the question, or is it something that's evolved?
What's that?
Well, you were saying that the county spent 200 or whatever.
We purchased it from the gentleman who he created it.
Pete, yeah.
It was built here
Adam.
for us.
But it was
So now
kind of
this-
sold that this is something all the other counties are gonna want. You could sell the license to it, so we bought the license for it. And it's been good, I mean, but there's now finding better things out there, and
Something
no county's ever knocked on the door saying, hey, we need that software.
Well, we never marketed the opportunity.
But it sounds like there's better opportunities anyway. Good stuff.
That is all I have.
So then I got the piece for, did you say how much was the chunk for Encode upgrade?
10,
45 was the
45 is
the
executive
payroll.
time, and 10 is just for the Encode 10 upgrade. But the kind of the catch is, executive time works best on Encode 10. Is kind of the deal. So, I mean, you can do them separately, but it's just easiest to upgrade at once, and it's just easiest to using executive time on the most current version of software available. Does that make sense?
Well, it sounds like 10 is a no-brainer. It's the conversion to the rest of it that we need to get some consideration for, so.
So executive time would scrap Sundial.
So when you were talking time to do payroll, every 2 weeks you're spending 2.5 days? to do
Yeah, I mean,
payroll?
we're reviewing and entering over 200 employees.
So is
by
that
hand.
staff of one person doing that or two staff?
Well, we do have one, and right now, since we're sort of newer in the last 6 months doing the payroll again, we're doing a lot of kind of training and teamwork to make sure that both the supervisor and then the clerk are fully understanding the whole process of payroll. There's a lot of learning going with it too. But anytime we have like a holiday or a bonus day, it requires more attention to detail just to make sure that everything is done correctly. There's a challenge with some people just put notes in the comments and then we have to, manually type it in. There's a lot of challenges with the import. And not to say we can't work through some of those challenges, but executive time is designed to work with Encode, and it's designed to meet needs of municipal, small, local governments.
And when she talks about the comments in those areas, it's usually the 8 hours to 10 hours for like the holiday pay for the bonus days when you have someone from the sheriff's department working. And then that kind of throws a kink in those areas too, because we did have 2 people in the sheriff's department spend over 10 hours on payroll this last pay period, just because there were so many issues trying to get it to balance out. So that's when they call me, and then I end up calling Sarah because she's a little more versed in it than I am, and we kind of go back and forth and work it all out together just to make sure we have the correct pay for the employee.
So we're spending a lot of man hours that could potentially be decreased with this program.
Correct.
Well, there's some efficiencies to be
Right.
had in the system that we have too, but we're just so gun shy, which I think is appropriate to make sure that we don't let something fall through the
Right.
cracks that we shouldn't. And you need to minimize that, because those departments are gonna have those all the time.
Yeah.
As much as you'd like to minimize it, you're gonna have people that are sick, you're gonna have call-outs for events that are unforeseen and
Yeah.
off hours and all kinds of things like that.
And that's one other thing. I mean, there's quite a few things that we can do in executive time, like for if somebody gets called in, instead of them having to go in and put in their 3 hours, that person clocks in and they clock out 45 minutes later, it automatically gives them their 3-hour call-in time, because that's what they're logging or clocking in as is call-in time. So it just automatically gives that. So that's one less thing that the supervisor or the employee has to go in and do, is make sure they get that 3-hour call-in pay. Another thing that I think would be big that would be a good option is the overtime to comp time. If you have someone working overtime and say they're short in vacation hours, they can take say they worked 5 hours of overtime, they can take 2 hours of that overtime and roll that over to comp time, so they would get 2 extra hours of vacation time. Instead of paying them time and a half for that overtime, they could roll it over to comp time. So that eliminates some of that overtime piece also.
So if you could take your payroll from 2.5 days down to 1 day, you'd probably be looking at, just a quick math, about $5,500 a year just in the man hours at 312 hours. You're sending about 20 hours right now. You can go that down to 8, you're saving 12 hours every 2 weeks.
And they do a return on investment for like the manual entries. I can find that quick here. You can just pass that around if you want to. But it just gives you a brief description of, if you have this many employees, here are your errors that you may have for manual entries. Just kind of clerical errors is what it would be. So you could, I don't know what the time frame is that they did this, but I thought it could be beneficial to the county.
What really separates executive time and the clerical aspect is you still have employees, you know, doing their data entry into executive time, but having those warnings and those red flags to the supervisor allow them to immediately know there's an error without having to go in and check for the error, which that would be a significant benefit to us.
Sometimes you don't know an error is an error by just looking at it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not so much an error, but an exception.
Or exception, or, you know, something just, they put it in as holidays, children's bonus time, or whatever it is may get overlooked. It's not always, the warning just really helps you pay attention to it.
And my big thing is putting the onus back on the employee. The employee needs to be responsible for their time cards, not the supervisors. So it's the supervisors looking at it saying, okay, this looks correct, but it's the employee initially signing off on it.
Oh, I've got them out now.
So if you have any additional questions, just let me know.
So if we would approve this reasonable timeline, if we started in January, it would be still August, September before it would be fully implemented.
Correct, yep. How that would work is if executive time would work with Encode. So as Encode is working on putting their system in, executive time works backwards with that. So they want to make sure that we're implementing Encode 10 and executive time at the same time. So everything is rolling in together. Yep.
Very good.
You guys can keep that. I don't need that one.
Okay.
Good stuff. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate breaking it down.
Those are pretty big numbers.
That's like the farmer goes to the implement dealer and says on the ROI on this deal, so we haven't been making your payments. He says, you told me it'd pay for itself.
Do we have anything else come before the commission? Gary, anything? Anything from state's attorney? Well, with that, I would entertain a
I
motion.
guess the only thing I would mention is Bill Edwards contacted me yesterday if we'd given any thought to their proposal. I know Carly sent that out on the 2nd of July for all of our review, so if you want to look that over.
I'm sending it out again just as a reminder, so.
Were they good with our changes?
No, they sent a counter proposal back.
Oh.
That was on July 2nd. She
Okay.
sent that for everybody to review. So.
With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, and we will do a short workshop on budget after the meeting with about a few-minute break, and then we'll go into some budgetary things. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Lee, second by Sutton to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.